What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about things that I would like to see changed for Season 6. There's going to be some opinions in there, some weapon balance changes that I'm recommending and that I hope happen. I'm sure they won't, but I'm still going to talk about what I think should happen. I will also talk about just a bunch of general annoyances with Warzone that a lot of them have been around since Warzone came out, which is really frustrating. So I'd love to see those fixed. If not with Season 6, then maybe with Vanguard integration or something. We'll see. I think with all these new games coming out, New World's out, Battlefield's going to come out, Halo's going to come out. There's just all kinds of really good games that are coming out soon. I think Warzone's really going to have to step their game up if they want to stay on top. Obviously, the game's huge and has been for a long time. But I think with a lot of competition, we will see people leave the game for those other games, whether or not it's because Warzone is actually bad or just because the other games are great. I just think there's some things Warzone could do to keep people around, and I will go over all those things in this video. As always, if you like my content, please subscribe, drop a comment, drop a like. That helps the channel grow and helps me keep working on the website, working on YouTube videos, and continuing to do this for the community. But let's jump into it and we'll start talking about the things I'd like to see changed with Season 6 of Warzone. Alright, number one, I want Iron Trials to come back. So I have a 2.67 KD in Verdansk. I generally am playing around 3 weekly in Verdansk whenever I play it nowadays. I just have so many kills that my KD just takes forever to go up, especially when I'm only playing it, 0.33 higher than my actual KD. But it's been slowly going up for a long time, so I'm usually around 3, and that's about exactly what I played at when I was playing Iron Trials. So I wasn't playing like wildly better in Iron Trials. It was just a much more enjoyable experience for me because I felt like every single fight, even if I got shot first, I had a chance. That's one of the most triggering things in Verdansk for me, is when I get shot from 100 meters away and I literally don't have time to react before I'm dead. That is infuriating to me. And that doesn't happen in Iron Trials. You always get a chance to come back and get in the fight and win the fight. And I loved that. I also loved the lack of dead silence and the lack of stopping power. I thought that was great. I loved not having to be afraid of being one-shot sniped from 200 meters away, so I didn't feel like I had to slide cancel across every open field to stay alive. That was also nice. The game mode was just a ton of fun, and it's not because I was like tearing it up. Like, I've had some people comment that oh, you're just a good player, so of course you enjoyed it because it made it easier for you to do well. That's not how I felt at all. I only got like 2 wins in the game mode. Like, I didn't even do that well. I just enjoyed it so much more, and a lot of people that I know felt that way too, and not just good players. So I think Iron Trials is great. A lot of those changes addressed some of the annoyances that people have had with Warzone since the start. So I'd love to see it come back. I would love to try it in trios and quads, and I think the rest of the community would too. Alright, I've talked about this a bunch in the past, about how there's a discrepancy between mobility on Cold War guns and Modern Warfare guns. And after looking at some of the data, it's 2 things. The first is that, in general, sprint speeds have a higher multiplier for Cold War guns, so we'll talk about that in a second. The second thing is just the way the attachments work. So when you stack Modern Warfare attachments, they're much more penalizing towards mobility, just in general. So those 2 things combined make the Modern Warfare guns feel a lot slower, and actually they are a lot slower. It's not just how they feel. But first of all, there is this big discrepancy in sprint speed multipliers for Cold War guns versus Modern Warfare guns. I don't know why they did this. I'll talk about a little bit why I think they might have done it towards the end of this part. But so what I did is I gathered all the Cold War ARs, all the Modern Warfare ARs, LMGs as well, SMGs as well, and then I compared the movement speed to the sprint speed. In Modern Warfare, the sprint speed multiplier is pretty consistent for ARs and LMGs and SMGs. So I've got the standard deviation here, and it was only 0.007 for the standard deviation of the sprint speed multiplier for Modern Warfare ARs, so they're almost all the same. I'm willing to say that most of this is probably just measurement error, because none of my measurements are perfect. They're close, they're not perfect. So in general, you get about 33% extra movement speed with Modern Warfare ARs when you're sprinting compared to regular movement speed, whereas Cold War ARs have much more variance. You got some down at 35%, you got some up at 44%. The standard deviation was 4 times bigger on the Cold War ARs, so I think Cold War ARs actually do have different sprint speed multipliers. Modern Warfare ARs, maybe just measurement error, but Cold War ARs, I'm positive, have different sprint speeds. So you can see the average percentage from the Cold War ARs is 138% versus 133% for Modern Warfare ARs. So you get an extra like 5 to 6% sprint speed when you're using a Cold War AR over a Modern Warfare AR, just base with no attachments. and that's huge. The patrol grip does like 6 or 7% sprint speed, and you can feel that difference when you put that attachment on a Cold War gun. So the fact that the Cold War ARs basically get a built-in patrol grip for free is crazy. I don't know why they did that, but they did. Cold War LMGs are actually the opposite. So Cold War LMGs are quite a bit slower, 123%, whereas Modern Warfare LMGs have that exact same 33% increase. So I thought that's interesting. I think Modern Warfare ARs and Modern Warfare LMGs use the same multiplier. So that's just the way the guns were built, whereas the Cold War guns have a variance in their sprint speed. And again, you can see the standard deviation here of Modern Warfare LMGs is proving that point really, really low, whereas the Cold War LMGs have a 4.1 times higher standard deviation. So much more variance in the Cold War LMG sprint speeds. So for the Cold War SMGs, it flips back again, and the Cold War SMGs have, again, like a free built-in patrol grip. They have like 6%, 7% faster sprint speed than the Modern Warfare SMGs do just in general, which is crazy. I think maybe they do this because this is tinfoil hat. I have no idea. But maybe they did this because there's two options. One, they did it because they're modeling the guns off of Cold War, and maybe this is just simply what they were in Cold War. I think that's silly. I think that's probably not the case, because I think they rebalanced all these guns when they put them in the Modern Warfare engine for Warzone. The second option is that they didn't want the Cold War guns to be just like blatantly better than the Modern Warfare guns, but they just kind of wanted them to feel a little bit better, feel a little bit easier to use, to encourage people to play Cold War and level their guns up in Cold War and buy Cold War. That is the general tinfoil hat theory about why they would do it. And it makes sense. They're a company, they're trying to make money, they needed to sell their game, so it makes sense. So yeah, I just wanted to cover this. This is the biggest thing that's different between the speeds of the Modern Warfare guns and Cold War guns. The other issue is attachments. Like I said, the attachments for Cold War guns work totally differently. You can put a Field Agent foregrip on your Cold War gun and get much, much better recoil. But to do that on a Modern Warfare gun, you have to use either the Commando foregrip in most cases, which murders your ADS movement speed and your movement speed. You could use the Operator, which doesn't hurt your movement speed, but overall, the Cold War attachments just don't have stacking movement speed penalties nearly as bad as the Modern Warfare guns do. On Modern Warfare, all the big mags kill your movement speed. The Cold War guns, the magazines don't even affect your movement speed at all. So that's the other reason. Those two things combined, I would like to see changed, because those two things alone, matching up the movement speeds between the two games, the guns are all reasonably well balanced right now. So if you match up those movement speeds, we're going to be able to use any gun we want pretty much and be totally viable. So that's one of the big weapon rebalances I'd like to see in this patch. It's not going to happen. There's no chance it's going to happen. They would have done it by now if they were going to do it, but I would like to see that happen. All right, some general annoyances that, again, have been around pretty much since Warzone came out. These are some things I think they need to address going forward just to stay on top of all the other games. We'll see how the other games play out once they come out and if they have good BRs, but I still think regardless, if Warzone wants absolute dominance, they should address all these little annoyances that we've had forever. Number one, gas mask should have a key to put it on or take it off. I understand maybe that's a problem for controller because maybe they don't have an extra button to do that. So I don't know how to keep that fair between keyboard and controller, but it seems like there has to be a way to do it. It's just very frustrating for anyone to die to the gas mask animation, and it's so crazy to me that this is still a problem a year and 6 months into the game. Less frequent dead silence spawns. In regular Verdansk, it feels like every other box drops a dead silence. Like, it's just crazy. A whole team could have dead silence so quickly, and that's one of the most frustrating ways to die. Ghost only active while moving. This is just a perk rebalance that I think would be really nice. Maybe Ghost is active like literally when you're moving whatsoever, so you could still be crouch walked and still be moving slowly and still be hidden. But I think that would be a nice change to make the Ghost perk not like by far the best perk. We obviously got some perks added to the game recently that kind of are okay and you can use them instead of Ghost, but overall Ghost is still the best, and I think this would be a good change for the perk just to fit in the slots better. Plates should fill an empty slot rather than a partially broken plate. So if you have one full broken plate and one plate that's taken 15 damage out of the 50, right now it'll replace the partially broken plate. So you'll go from having a plate with one full plate, one plate with 35 health, and one plate with 0 health, to having two full plates rather than having two full plates plus the 35 health. So instead of your dude putting the plate in his broken plate slot, he puts it in the one that was just damaged, which doesn't make any sense. And it kind of screws with how you can heal and how fast you can heal and things like that. Again, this is from the beginning of Warzone that never really made sense to me. I don't know why it is this way, but it stayed that way, and I think it would probably be a relatively easy change, and I just think it would make the game flow better. No more to it melee. This is one of the most frustrating things ever, as most of you probably know. So again, they changed it for like one gun, and that was the spawn gun at the time, and then all of a sudden they started changing the pistols that you spawn with. So it's like, it did no good that they changed that for the one gun. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. If they can do it for one gun, just do it for all the guns, and you'll have a much less frustrating start of the game for people. So overall, those are the big changes I'd like to see for the game. Again, they're not going to rebalance the guns, like I said. There's no way that's going to happen. I can dream, but it's not going to happen. But overall, these are just the changes I'd like to see. I wanted to share those with you guys and get your thoughts on that. Hit me up in the comments with other things you'd like to see changed that I missed. I'm sure I didn't think of some things. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.